All right, welcome back to Politics and Movies, and today we're discussing a lovely film. We're talking about the 1981 horror comedy, An American Werewolf in London, and we've got Billy with us to talk about this film.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the werewolf.
Yes, this is the first werewolf film we've covered, and I think this is going to be one of the last movies that we cover for Halloween month, October. So that's exciting.
Yeah, this is the last werewolf movie we ever cover. There's
That's not
there's
true.
not a lot.
I mean, it's not true that it's going to be the last. I mean, honestly, GS and I might cover Werewolf by Night at one point. So that's interesting. The Marvel movie,
Oh God,
because it's on his list. He hasn't seen it yet. It's a
I-
good one. Don't say
it's,
that.
it's good. I don't.
It's one of their better movies.
Is that a movie?
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
on
that.
Disney Plus.
Okay. Well, good
Yeah.
luck extracting a lot of politics out of that.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, it probably won't be for a while. So, we got a lot to talk about before then. But anyway, we're talking about this movie. It was written and directed by John Landis, starring David Naughton, Jenny Agutter, and Griffin Dunn. And yeah, this is a movie about a couple of American backpackers in North England, that get attacked by a werewolf, uh, causing the protagonist David to become a werewolf, and the other friend Jack Goodman to become an undead, uh, like ghost, I guess.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I feel like undead spirit or something, which is
Yeah,
I guess a ghost anyway.
right. It's definitely in that realm. Um, so yeah, just getting moving right along. Do you have any initial thoughts about this movie, politically or otherwise? I mean, if you just have like anything you want to get out in the open.
Um, I mean, yeah, I can open. I can always just open with my what I feel like is the through line of this movie, and I think it's an interesting through line. Just about animal nature, and part of that being part of human nature too. Especially because I feel like as part of animal nature, we see the physiological or psychological response of like fight or flight throughout this movie reoccurring. Um, it's not very political, but I think it's very interesting, especially how they handle it, and it shows it's an honest through line in my opinion because with you see it in the beginning, the fight or flight effect with David and his friend Jack walking through the woods, and Jack gets attacked, and David honestly just bolts. You know, it's taken for comedy the way he bolts because he just gets out of there, and then he looks back and he's like, "Oh, Jack!" He runs back, and it's honestly just really funny, but it's actually like a normal response to me, even though it's played as just a joke, because I could see people really doing that. Like he has such an instinctual reaction that he'd leave his friend to die. He's not gonna help him, and that's just the like that's just the animal instinct in him already, even before he becomes a werewolf. You know, he thinks in his head, "Danger! I'm gonna run," and I think it's really indicative of his personality that that's what he does, because he kind of does that throughout the movie. Like after he becomes a werewolf, he is told, kill yourself or you're going to hurt other people. And you see like right away he's not going to kill himself. Like he has that choice to kill himself, but he still chooses to run even after he sees that he becomes a werewolf. It's that fight or flight nature that we see ingrained in him, the animal that we see, that he learns that he's a werewolf. He learns it in the car, in the taxi ride, and um his girlfriend is with him at the, or the like nurse that he's into is with him, and she's telling him like, hey, you you really need to come with me to this doctor, he's gonna help you. And he's just like, get away from me, I'm gonna hurt you. And again, he just runs. He does try to kill himself, but it's really not successful. And I know this is a weird thing to start with, but I do think it just goes to show that he has this instinctual human and animal need to live. He runs from these things. He inadvertently kills other people with that. And he's shown the other people that he's killed, and still he chooses to live. And it's that animal nature that even at the end, where she says that she loves him, he would have killed her. I think we all know, like, he lunges to kill her, but even though she says she loves him in return, there was no doubt that he would have still killed her. It's just all part this fight or flight response. Some of those like cravings, his sexual desire, and it all goes into being a horny teenage boy, pre- preservation, being a person, being an animal. And honestly, you can learn like from any high school. I think it's interesting that werewolves are talked about and usually referred to like as teenagers. Um, is there any point you want to cut in? Because I know I'm going very far with this.
Well, we definitely got some psychology out of the way. No, you're fine. I was just thinking. There is there's not a ton of politics in this film that I can like sink my teeth into, but there's a fair amount. I would say traditionalism is a big point, especially early in the film where we're talking about the community that David and Jack find themselves in, where they when they're backpacking and they go into the slaughtered lamb, and it's just these old fashioned men mostly that are just like trying to usher them along, but at the same time they are trying to be friendly in their own way and be like, hey, like stay on the path, but they're also not providing context. And these are two like post-adolescent boys that obviously do not understand the threat. They don't know what's coming to them, so they're not going to really pay attention to the instructions they're given. They don't understand the severity of them, and I think there definitely is a political reading there. um
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I think it really does. It can be broadened into like a isolationism of countries. Of an American country that goes into another territory and just goes balls deep into something that they don't understand, and another country that really doesn't help and is a little, you know, just a little annoyed that they're asserting themselves into there in the first place. And the Americans won't they won't admit that they're being naive. Instead, they'll be oblivious, because they were told twice by two different people to stay off the moors. And when they go onto the moors, it's honestly the silliest thing because they're just singing and they don't even realize that they've gone into the moors. So I do think it's like an interesting kind of balance of these people, don't want to share their beliefs because, for one, they know that they're not going to be listened to. They know that they're going to be laughed off and not taken seriously. And for a second, they also just feel like um it's partially not their responsibility. I know one of the quotes is, no one brought them here, no one wanted them here. It's in God's hands now. So it's just like, you asserted yourself into this situation. You're basically an immigrant in our space. He didn't want you here. So you're accepting your own fate. And your fate isn't going to be because of us. But obviously, the one guy realizes later on, like, he feels guilty for what happens. And he's just like, this isn't the way to think.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's interesting. Um, a slight tangent, but
Everything's been a tangent.
I really like the way that the comedy is structured in this film. Like this. I wouldn't say there are a lot of jokes in this movie. Mostly the way that comedy is presented is in the framing, and I think that's really interesting. There really aren't a lot of comedies like that these days. And I'm not saying that like, oh, like something has been lost or hard or comedy is worse. I'm just saying that it's not as subtle as it is in this movie these days for the most part.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean. I feel like you compare it to a Marvel movie, honestly, and the setup is so obvious. Um, but here, the setup is a little bit more implied. Like, there's one funny scene where you're watching the Muppets engage in like this violence, and they even say like, "Oh, Muppets are so violent. I can't believe like Muppets are so violent. You're punching." And then there's a knock on the door, and the dad goes to answer it, and everybody gets shot to death. It's
Oh yeah, the dream sequence. We can
yeah,
talk about the dream sequence. We can talk about the symbology or the
yeah. I think there's a lot about like that's also his primal nature coming out. His
Yeah.
violence of becoming the werewolf.
Yes, and also the fact that the monsters that invade the home are like dressed in like traditional like Nazi regalia. Like they're wearing like these Nazi uniforms and helmets. It's like this is the form that David has decided that the I guess the virus, if you will, that is invading his body has taken. Like it's a Nazi virus, I guess. Which is interesting because, of course, the Nazis bombed and tried to invade England during World War II. So I guess there's a little bit of crossover there.
I
Um,
I didn't pick up on much Nazi symbolism, but I can definitely see where you're coming from.
yeah, I mean that's all I have to say about that. I mean it's not a big deal. It's just what they present. It's probably the most convenient. Like I'm not like reading too much into it. I feel like that's probably what was early 80s. That's probably the most convenient form you could like take of like evil bad guy. It's the Nazis,
Yeah,
Nazi monsters.
I didn't really take it more as like, this is just a part of him now. Just like, honestly, even if I'm reading more into the Muppets violence thing, it's just like violence begetting more violence on the TV. Like, you're watching violence, and you become violence and just
And let's be
him.
honest, that's kind of a boomer argument, though. If you're like, "Oh, there's violence in the TV, you're gonna become violent," or, "There's violence in video games, you're gonna become violent,"
Oh
and it's not
yeah,
really how it works.
oh yeah. I'm
But
just saying the actual like argument. I don't actually believe that bullshit, but
yeah.
I'm just saying what the film was probably trying to give off from that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
So how do you feel about how the cops are presented/behave in this film?
oh yeah, obviously I feel a lot of things. Uh, if I can take a step back
Yes.
from that comment, there's other like people, interesting other people too. Like the guy from the embassy, even before the cops are introduced. The guy who's telling David that the cops are going to be introduced. And this is another moment that's like played for laughter. And it's actually funny because this guy is an idiot. David is just told that his friend is dead and and the embassy guy is telling him his friend is dead and he's saying your parents have been notified and and his parents have been notified and everybody has been notified so everything's okay, and he's just like trying to tell him what's going on but not trying to be reassuring in any way possible, or not trying to be empathetic at all. It's like going back to that like bureaucracy that we were talking about in Beetlejuice, and it's just this guy completely job driven, completely a little bit like a British stereotype, to be honest. Like, no empathy, just completely soulless, cold. I'm just doing my job. And when David breaks into hysteria, he's just like, these dumbass kids never appreciate anything you do for them. And then he leaves the room. uh, so I do think like it's interesting how it depicts certain jobs. The doctor is depicted in such a interesting way because he does a better job investigating than the police do. He gets to the bottom of things. He actually goes to the pub and he actually talks to people, whereas the cops take a lot of information for granted. They say they're gonna find things out and they never do. Um, but they don't cross check because they think that's the end of the story right there, is what they were told. The witnesses say that it was just a what did they say? Just a crazy escapee who just murdered them. But that doesn't make sense because obviously the
Yeah.
wounds are more animal oriented. They're not, you know, wounds of someone with hands attacking someone else. So I think it's interesting because the one person who's depicted as an idiot, the bumbling cop, the one who doesn't know how to open a door, the one who smashes the kid onto the ground and then has to reassemble it. Uh, I think it's interesting that he's the one who comes up with the idea to, go back and actually listen to David's story, but he's told by his superior that that's an awful idea. And ultimately, his superior dies because he is an idiot too. He's just a better. He's just an idiot who knows how to conceal it better. Is I think the best way to say it. And cops on the force. That's how it really is. Like, I think you have the people who are there for the right reasons and who are trying to do the right thing, but they haven't been taught. Or they haven't been um, educated enough in the program to know the right way of doing things. They've been taught the wrong way, and they're just too proud to say that they don't know, or too proud to listen to someone else. And when you become a superior to someone else, you're not going to listen to that person. You're going to stick with your bogus idea, and you're going to probably get yourself killed at some point because you're wrong and you can't admit it.
Yeah. Um, that's interesting. And also, I do think it's interesting that the cops don't really take this seriously until people start getting killed. And then they're like, "Oh, we got to get the rifles."
Yes. Yeah. And even with the missing person thing, they say we'll find him, and obviously that's not taken too seriously too. They
Yeah.
You see so much all the time. So many people have the difficulties of finding someone, and how many of those like Netflix documentaries do the police actually find the person? I mean, I know those are just like outliers sometimes, but how many of those is it some random person or someone in the family, like the doctor in this movie, is someone who gets a hunch and investigates on their own will and on their own time, and then that's how it gets solved, you know?
Yeah. And that is interesting that the driving investigative force in this movie is the doctor, and I know you've already said that a bunch of times, but that is really one of the most interesting aspects of this movie, where he's the one that sort of takes this role, and he's the one who's the most concerned, um, and he's like trying to get everyone else to do the right thing, and and of course, like in a more twisted way, Jack is trying to get David to do the right thing by like killing himself and breaking this curse.
Yeah.
Uh, but I feel like that's a different thing. And that's do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I wanted to talk about real quick, just
Yeah.
because I feel like I did talk a little bit about that, but just about like how kind of pro healthcare this movie actually is in a interesting way. Just
Yeah.
how like you said, the doctor is that driving force, but the nurse is portrayed in such a innocent way. At least the nurse that um he falls in love with, she's portrayed as this giving, curious, and empathetic woman. When he's becoming crazy, I feel like, I'm sorry, he's not becoming crazy when he's becoming a werewolf, but when he looks crazy and presents crazy, she is so innocent and so pure-hearted. Like, she doesn't go to, oh my god, I'm with a crazy person. I think the words that she actually says is like she's rationalizing it and saying, you know, if someone if someone saw, you know, their friend die next to them, of course they'd be having this trauma. And she says she finds him a little bit sad, and she's not sure if she should feel sorry for him or if she should find him terribly attractive. And it's just like, obviously part of that can be, just her being horny, but another part of it could really be just her empathy in the healthcare field, aside those, like, putting aside the feelings of, you know, being skeptical of someone and just being understanding of their situation. There's a lot. I feel the movie goes out of its way sometimes to show her caring side, especially with the kids. Um, Showing her like just talking to them, and honestly, that's some of my favorite parts of the movie is just the no kid. I love the no kid, because that reminds me of my uh experiences with kids like that. It's just, you say something to him and he just says no, and she just engages with it, and I could see another nurse getting angry or frustrated. I've seen people get angry or frustrated by something as trivial as that, but the fact that she's so patient and she laughs with it says a lot about her. And the fact that the doctor, takes David's word and starts taking it seriously says a lot about him. And the fact that she goes out of her way to feed him. Honestly, even the guy who's the orderly who comes into the room and says good morning, and he puts the tray down, and he's in such good spirits, and he tells David everything that's on his tray, and then he leaves before David can even say good morning back. I honestly even thought that was like good representation of healthcare, because that's a guy who actually likes his job. Normal people who are in healthcare don't go out of their way to do all that. They would just say, "Here's your tray," or if even that. I'm going on a tangent, but I think that this film really displays healthcare in a very positive light. I think they have one outlier, and it's the nurse who looks at his penis and wants to see if it's circumcised, and she says, "Oh, I think he's Jewish." That's the only person who I think is portrayed as like a negative in the healthcare, but you're always gonna get weirdos like that anywhere, you know?
Yeah, and I think, in terms of the script, that was just played for laughs.
Yeah.
Just
But
a little cheeky joke,
I
as
thought
the
it
bird.
was worth mentioning when I'm talking
Yeah.
about how much the movie glorifies healthcare.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and that would generally be inappropriate for your your healthcare provider to make assumptions based on your penis. Yeah.
Uh, Honestly, I forgot that was in the movie. So when you told me that was like that she says that he's Jewish, I was like, "What are you talking?" Or that she knows he's circumcised. I was, "What are you talking about?" And then she was like, "I think he's Jewish." I was like, "What the fuck?"
No, honestly, that's when I saw this as a kid, that was just one part of this that always stuck with me. It was like, "Oh my god."
It's just such a weird moment.
Yeah.
For all the good that it has with healthcare, that is like a traumatizing thing to think of. Like I go, I black out after a traumatizing experience, and someone's just staring at my penis. uh,
"Doctor, help, my nurse is making penis jokes."
yeah,
Um, but
doctor, help!
yeah.
My nurse thinks I'm Jewish. What was your original question? Oh, about the choice to kill himself or
Yeah.
to what do you think about it? Because I've been talking about healthcare for a minute.
Yeah, well, I wonder why. You have a lot more insight into healthcare than I do. But, yeah, I think it's interesting that, we see Jack for most of the movie as, like, this decaying spirit that is, like, already dead, and he's, like, trying to convince David that, his life is a lost cause and he needs to just give up and, basically end his own life for the sake of others. And David, for the most part, is not buying into this narrative, and he's just content to like hang out with his friend or in whatever form it takes, like, and especially towards the end of the movie, he's more accepting of the situation, and when they're in the porno theater together, he's just like, okay, whatever, and they're just hanging out together, and that's when everything goes wrong. But I just think it's interesting. Did you have anything to say about that?
Really, I can only go back to kind of what I was thinking before of you know, it partially being just a teenager and just or being that age and just wanting to go on with your life and having that instinct to live, because he can barely even cut his wrist. He
Yeah,
does everything with saying his goodbye, but he can't, actually hurt himself. And I feel like that's what Jack realized in that moment when you know, when he has him go to the place, porn theater, because he feels like this is my last chance. I have to have him introduced to all these people. I don't want to, but how else am I going to get him to kill himself?
yeah,
And
and then he still doesn't.
yeah, yeah, I would have been interested to see him try, because it is jarring again to just see him just kind of watching the movie and then start transforming. Like, dude, the moon is coming soon. Why are you just watching this porno? But again, I really think it was just part of his flight. Like, we've seen that he has a very strong flight, a very strong want to just survive, and he thinks he can just continue running away from his problems. But obviously he can't. And I think that does show a lot for the teenage mindset. Things don't feel real like as a teenager until they happen. He's told repeatedly, and he thinks it's a delusion. He's told repeatedly by Jack that he's going to become a werewolf, and he just thinks he's going crazy. And I can't blame him for that. But even when he learns that he's a werewolf, it's still like the consequences of his actions are there, but he still can't really believe it in a way. He's still not taking the action that he needs to take, and he's still dawdling.
Yeah, well, people's self-preservation is usually so strong, and I mean, I guess that's especially so in like someone that's young, like like David is like in his early 20s, and he like really has this strong sense of self, and he's like like I don't want to kill myself, even though like I've become this monster. Um, and I think that's interesting. That he doesn't at any point like seriously venture into the realm of really taking his own life. Like there's a couple of half-hearted attempts with the like slicing his wrist, but that's about it. And then it takes him being in the form of the werewolf and being gunned down by the cops for him to finally have his reign of terror end.
Yeah,
Anyway, I think we've been talking very seriously about a movie that ends on Blue Moon.
I I love that ending, and honestly, it I I really thought this time that it ended on her, which it would be such a different kind of ending if it ended on her sobbing. But the fact that it cuts from her to him and then, shows his body and then it shows the credits and Blue Moon just starts ba ba da ba da ba da ba. It's so jarring. It honestly just kind of portrays how like his story really doesn't even matter. It's just he doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Someone else is probably going to transform into the werewolf too, and the same shit is going to happen again.
Yeah, well, I think that's um, the cycle is supposed to have ended with him. Um, and we don't have to talk about the sequel. Fuck the sequel. But
I I feel like supposedly, but you could say he probably mauled someone and they lived, especially like in the porno. We don't really see a lot of those kills.
yeah, yeah, who knows?
I think it's interesting in that final 15, I think it's really just like a 10 minutes, that final 10 minutes of that devastation and havoc in London, that really a lot of, like I said, they don't show a lot of his kills or a lot of his mayhem. They're more they're more inclined to show the damage of people's of other people's mayhem. You know, all the cars swerving into each other, all the cars crashing into people, ramming into them, smashing them into other cars. Like it's honestly oddly graphic how many car deaths there are in that one like 2 minute blurb because
Yeah.
it's more it, it's more uh deaths by car, vehicle manslaughter than fucking werewolf slaughter.
It's more cinematic when it's Cinemark.
Yeah, those cars. Christine is deadly.
Yeah, but that's a different movie that came out a few years later. Um, is it interesting that one of the only relevant songs that didn't get played on the soundtrack is Werewolves of London by Warren
Mm,
Zevon?
no,
Was that too on the nose?
I think so. I love all the werewolf moon songs that are played in this.
Yeah, Bad Moon Rising.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's funny. One of the top letterbox comments is actually about that. Um, Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I know, like you occasionally want to talk about the letterbox reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I love the music of this movie. It was like a little bit of a surprise because you're just the the story and the characters really do like come in for a good strong amount of the movie, but then the music sometimes just comes out of nowhere for a fun little cheeky montage, and then it's just like, oh, this slaps. I needed this little break.
Yeah, yeah, it's and there's definitely a lot of montages. And the review I'm referring to says, "All right, how many songs about the moon can we fit into 97 minutes?" So yeah, that's funny. Um,
What was the answer? 5.
Something like that. But yeah, did you have any other thoughts about this movie before we wrap up?
What actual political comments did we make? I think the only thing we said that was political was healthcare and isolationism.
Yeah, and the cops are pretty much inept in this movie until the very end. They don't carry out any actual investigation. Uh, when David says, like that he's killed someone, and he begs the cop to arrest him. The cop is like too polite and thinks it's a joke, and doesn't take him seriously at all. So I think there's something there.
Oh, yeah, that is like very odd, you know? Like you'd think that that cop would at least pull him aside and talk to him in person. Because I would never think in my career someone else saying, "Oh no, he's just having a bad day," or "He just lost his friend," is enough to discredit someone saying something that egregious.
Yeah.
Like, "I'm gonna bomb your restaurant." Oh no, he just got hit by a car. No.
It's like the cop in the totally different tangent, but there was a cop in the movie the Lars von Trier film the House That Jack Built, when at one point one of Jack's girlfriends gets out of the apartment and goes over and says, excuse me, officer, my boyfriend is saying that he's killed 60 people, and the officer thinks that it's just a joke. And then Jack like takes the girlfriend back upstairs and like kills her. And this could have all been prevented if the cop had taken her seriously. It's just like stuff that like that does happen in real life.
Yeah. Mm. It's interesting watching like less podcasts than the left and hearing how many stories where a cop literally had the person and they literally could have stopped more people from dying, but they just didn't take it seriously enough.
Right. But, what's the flip side of that? Like, a cop takes, like, some actual joking a little too seriously, and, well, generally when the cops are involved, it's already a serious thing, so I don't think there's, like, a clear-cut answer there other than, you know, if you are getting the cops involved, don't fuck around, like, only do it if, like, things are actually dire, and, cops, like, take victims seriously.
Yeah, I I just I do think there can be better procedures for making sure that because there's a little bit of burnout involved there too. Think about a cop going house to house talking to 100 people in a day. You know, say that your last person you talk to, the 100th person, you're not in it anymore. At some point you need to switch out and have someone who's fiery, passionate in it at that point, and who's ready to help. I think of like the guy who in this movie, the younger guy who obviously sincerely wants to help and he wants to believe David, but again, the superior is just he's content to just write it off because the case is done. And I'm pretty sure he says that. What's the point of overturning this, of doing more work? The case is done. I just think burnout. There's a lot of
Yeah.
studies going into burnout now in a very interesting way because people are taking it so much more seriously now because it's not just in restaurants, it's everywhere. How burnout affects a person's work ethic and behavior and how that affects the quality of work that that person does. Like for
Yeah.
a police officer, burnout could be incredibly important because, again, that could maybe determine whether you put enough effort into finding a person or helping.
Yeah, yeah, and it is interesting. But
Oh, did you want to talk about women?
how women are portrayed in this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, okay.
I think there's a little bit to say there. I was honestly kind of a little sad because I felt like Leandra would have been our feminist perspective again.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty to say about women's behavior and even men's behavior in here too. I think it's interesting there's no female police officers. They're only men. Um the doctor is very assertive and the person who um takes a lot of things seriously and gets the nurses back to work. Uh, when David is waking up, the nurses are just kind of jovial and just silly, and his love interest is kind of just looking at him curiously and just seems more like she says later on she's attracted to him, and it's like she can't help it, but she's not focused. The doctor is driven and is just he's going to stay on task, and it's interesting because he kind of obliges her too at the same time. He knows that she's sleeping with him, and he uses that to get to David so he can contact him.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both too, because men have their sexual side for sure, but the doctor kind of tames that to be serious, and you can see a little bit of like maybe David will be a serious doctor type eventually, but he's in this point of his life, he's overcoming his, his 20s sexual hyper energy, hyper drive, time to have sex. And he's
Yeah.
just, trying to get over that. I I think it's interesting that the first one of the first major conversations of the film is David and Jack talking about uh what's her name? Debbie Klein, and how much Jack wants to fuck her. He says that she has no choice. I have to make love to her. And I think that's pretty interesting because he's pretty insistent about it over and over again. She comes up multiple times, even when he's dead. She's the first thing that he talks about again. And it's just these not like teenage fixations, but just this
How
this
much of that do you think is like male insecurity about like, oh, am I worthy of Debbie Klein? Um, like, just yeah, well, there it is. Like, is he just like joking about like, oh, she doesn't have a choice because like he's like, well, maybe she doesn't actually like me or she isn't actually attracted to me, and I just um am just like being aggressive with joking as a coping mechanism, basically.
Yeah, I definitely think insecurity is a part of it. I think that's part of the reaction when he finds out that she slept with someone else after his funeral, like part of it
Yeah.
is the validation of, oh, she was there, she cried for me. Oh, she got so upset that she fucked someone else. I can't believe her. Um I think it's also just a pride thing. Part of that insecurity going hand in hand with pride of, you know, I I'm a guy, this is what I do. How good of being a guy am I if I've been working my way to get Debbie for all my life, and I've known her since what was it, like middle school, and I still
Yeah.
haven't dated her. You know, he really he needs to be with her because, like you said, his he would be shattered. He would be even more insecure in his part of being himself if he wasn't with her.
Yeah, I guess. Um,
But
but at the end of the day, Blue Moon, you saw me standing alone without a dream in my heart.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I I I do think it's interesting just how quick some of these characters are to just fall in love with someone. Apparently, even the nurse saying "I love you" at the end is a little jarring to me because you've known this person for 3 days in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, well, he says it first.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, in like a moment of trauma, but he definitely does say it first, and she's taken aback by it, but then she realizes that she does love him too. But and that's how much of that is movie logic of yeah, like oh, you've known each other for a couple of days, you don't actually love this person, but that does happen in real life.
yeah. I guess that I could see that actually happening in real life. I feel like there's a little bit to say about like the Florence Nightingale effect here too. I think that's what it's called. Just
Yeah.
about someone who's caring for another person, and honestly, I think that effect was really debunked, or maybe I'm thinking about. something else.
You're thinking about cats again.
I'm thinking about cats again. I might be thinking about Stockholm syndrome. I know Stockholm syndrome was debunked, um, or at least it's not as like we thought it was. The actual event wasn't, you know, wasn't actual Stockholm syndrome. But it's interesting just how, for the Florence Nightingale effect, whether you believe it's a thing or not, that she repeatedly says in the movie over and over again, I think you're a little sad but attractive. She's drawn to caring for him, and it's kind of like, I know this sounds a little weird, but it's kind of like a motherly thing for her. A one in the hand. Like, what's the metaphor? Like, she's getting. I don't
A
know.
bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
I. That doesn't make
He's definitely had his hand in her bush, if you know what I'm saying.
sense. Oh yeah, there was termites in there.
Oh, well, oh God, what?
I don't know, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of that, like, motherly caring energy, and then there's that, like, sexual attraction for her at the same time, because it starts out just as a relationship where she's looking down on him and he can't even talk to her, till eventually she's caring for him, feeding him, and it's still just, the dynamic is, not on neutral terms. And then even later on, he's a werewolf, saying to her that he's killed people and that he sees his friend. And again, she's just doing her best to believe that he just had a traumatic experience. And she's just supporting him and still sexually attracted to him, but still being his nurse, even though she isn't anymore. So
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about her, and just, what this director or writer thinks about women a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
What
this was right before he decapitated a child with a helicopter.
is it really?
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Oh, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of children in this movie.
Oh my God. Yeah, on the set of uh the fucking what's it called? The Twilight Zone movie. John Landis.
Oh
Uh,
God.
uh, yeah, a child got decapitated, and yeah, there was a whole thing. It was a trial, and yeah, there was a huge investigation and a trial.
That's fucking crazy. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's honestly most of the time when I think of John Landis, he's done a lot of great movies, but I think about that all the time when I think about him, the
Did
the
he
fucking kid.
did he got uh was he guilty? Did he have to pay a fine?
Well, he was acquitted for involuntary manslaughter, but the incident had long-lasting effects on film industry practices after that.
Well, that's good. I mean, probably good effects. I
Yeah,
haven't heard
yeah,
of about any other little kid
yeah,
getting killed.
yeah. So that's interesting. Not much to do with the politics in this movie though.
Yeah. Oh,
um, but yeah. Did you have any other thoughts before I wrapped up? I know we talked about a lot.
yeah. I'm wondering if we can talk about anything else. fucking. I actually. Okay, I mean, this is another tangent, but I feel like this goes back to the isolationism thing. In the bar, you did say that they tried to include them, but I think it was even more than that. They didn't want to share the werewolf thing, but they wanted to include them. Like I think I'm always surprised by how much they want to include them because the remember the Alamo joke always puts me off. Partially because it's obviously racist, but it's because the Texas people are obviously racist. But it's you know, the David and Jack reference remember the Alamo, and the people in the bar, they start telling their joke, and everybody's included in the bar. I imagine that's how like a bar near London would actually be, where everyone's just talking to each other all at the same time, and people are shouting across the room. That seems very genuine, but I think it's cool that like he starts telling this joke, and it's the punchline is remember the Alamo, so it's like he was including the two guys, the two American people, but Jack takes it a step too far, and he asks about the star on the wall, and he's just like, oh, what's that? And it has nothing to do with the joke. And they probably could have had a good night of just laughing and joking and having a good time, but he took it a step too far, and he tried to he tried to jokingly insert himself into a culture he wasn't going to understand. And
Yeah.
he should have realized the boundaries, but he didn't. And it just made everything awkward, and they had to leave immediately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, all right. This has been our episode on An American Werewolf in London. Great movie. Great commentary. We did a great job. We're gonna pat ourselves on the back and we're gonna give ourselves an award.
Oh yeah. I could never tell if you like my actual rambles or you're just waiting for them to end.
No, I do. It's just this has already been our longest episode, so
Oh, okay, that's fair.
so I'm just like wrapping up. No, you've made a lot of good points. I'm just like okay, it's time to wrap up.
Wait, I gotta talk about women some more.
Yeah. Talking about cats again.
I gotta talk about werewolves again.
Talking about werewolves again.
I've seen Bad Moons Rising.